You ever get that feeling where you've been waiting for something for so very, very long, and it just like excited you thinking about this thing happening or whatnot, and you get closer and closer to it happening, and you're just getting so hyped up and you're just so excited to finally see this thing or whatnot, and then the day finally comes, and what you were waiting for isn't what you were hoping to be, and yet you had this underlying feeling that what you feared might happen actually happens, and it ends up sort of ruining your excitement, and you can't decide if you're like happy or not happy, and you just can't help but be both at the same time. Well, that's what happened, and what currently is kind of happening right now. So all right. Well, I normally don't make videos like this unless it's something that truly must be said, and I feel that I need to speak my part of all my thoughts on this topic. So, yeah, I collect all kinds of Transformers figures here every often, and last year into this year has been the Transformers Age of the Primes line. And I've always hoped that we'd one day see, full figures of the 13 Primes made. And they've delivered on that very well, I find. Like, they all have made me really happy. I'll say right now, don't mind the Plants vs. Zombies video in the background. This is so short notice for me, and this was really the only footage of anything I had that I could use in the background for something to look at, I guess. I don't know. But anyways, so where was I at? Yeah, okay, so Age of the Primes. I'm probably gonna ramble a lot here, but stick with me here. Yeah. Age of the Primes, they all have been great since the beginning of the series in 2025. And of the 13 Primes getting full figures, one of them that I was excited for was Nexus Prime, because he's the Prime of combination. He's the first combiner. And I was really excited to see how they would pull him off. I was prepared to pay for him. But my main focus this year and last year was only priority one was to get the primes. And that's what I focused on. I didn't focus on getting any of the combiners or anything like that at all. My main objective was just to get the primes. So, last year, they started with Prima, Solus, Megatronus. Megatronus, I had to wait till like October to finally find him in none other than Walmart, of all places. Only one in the most worst stocked Walmart I've ever seen. They had one. It was a miracle. I snatched that up. Then they released Alchemist, and then Onyx, Micronus, Alpha Trion. I think that's everybody who came out last year. Oh, and Star Convoy, of course being a Titan class, but I didn't get him. I didn't care for him being that big. But, yeah. And then this year, Amalgamus, Quintus, I'm still waiting on them to ship and release to me. Today is literally the day that they released on Amazon, and I'm waiting for my pre-order to say they shipped. So hopefully that happens soon. But then that left just two left to be revealed. Liege Maximo and Nexus Prime. Liege Maximo looks great. I like how he looks. He's perfect. But Nexus Prime. So him and Liege Maximo were revealed last Friday, January 31st. No, wait. January 30th, rather. Right, January 30th, 2026. Today's February 1st. So, like, a day and a half-ish later of them being revealed, almost 2 full days. I'm sitting there, browsing TFW, and every day for like a year now, I would check, is Nexus leaked? Is Nexus leaked? And random Friday afternoon, there he is, revealed. And I think my heart might have skipped a beat when I looked at Nexus for the first time. I couldn't believe it. I was excited. I was having this huge excitement burst at that moment that I couldn't help but feel happy to finally see him. Yet, underneath, I was going, how did I know they were going to make this? Ever since we got the leaked information of him being a Voyager class, I had this feeling he was going to be the TF1 version. And I hoped that wouldn't be true. But, well, I guess it turned out to be true. They went the Transformers 1 style. He looks straight up like he looked in TF1. His body is completely TF1 Nexus Prime with the colors of his original figure from 2004. So that means he's not a power core combiner, mini-cons connecting to a core class, no drone limbs like Energon Prime. He looks very, very basic, very generic. Now, I'm not mad about how he looks in bot mode. In fact, I actually like it. It's like I said, this is one of those things where you can't help but like it and hate it at the same time, to the point where it's like a double-ended sword. One end you like it, and one end you don't. It's perfectly balanced that way for me, to the point where it's I can't help but not like him and like him at the same time. Like, his bot mode doesn't have any problem that I have against it. Like, of course I'm going to get him because he completes the 13. It's better than nothing, is how I look at him. But I just can't help but also think that there was also the potential that they could have given us a smaller sized figure that would look more like his original toy. Keep in mind, though, this is all about a toy. This is about a toy. There are people who are having these arguments and discussions over a toy, but I get it. I understand the feeling. I completely understand. Out of all the years of collecting Transformers and being into the franchise and everything, I have never felt this confused by a toy. I just don't understand it. Like, it's the 13 primes. You want them all to be perfect in each of their own ways. But it seems that Nexus was the one that was kind of slept on. I mean, yeah, like I said, his bot mode, I'm not really complaining on. The figure itself is not my biggest issue with him. My biggest issue is something else. And it's not really his vehicle mode either. And I mean, yeah, it does look rather plain. And not even like a plane, but just a generic brick rectangle with wings and a nose cone. He's definitely got one of the more bland vehicle modes out of the others. Like, I didn't really like Micronus's Apex armor thing, but Micronus's alt mode looks better than even Nexus. And even his minicon, how he turns into a little disc, looks better than Nexus. I was not a fan of Onyx, but I got him to complete the 13. I like Onyx more than Nexus. Onyx looks fantastic. I wasn't a fan of Alpha Trion being a younger version rather than an older Gandalf-like style. Alpha Trion has grown on me. Like, Prima, great. Vector Prime, G-Axis remold, but great. Alpha Trion, great. Solus, great. Micronus, great. Alchemist, great. Onyx, great. Amalgamus, great. Quintus, great. Megatronus, great. Star Convoy, too big for me, but, I mean, he looks cool. But, and even Legion Maximo, fantastic. But Nexus, why does he bug me like this? Why does this toy bug me? How come? Like, what is it with Nexus that always seems to be kind of an issue? I don't know if this is true or not, but it just seems to me that Nexus is always someone who seems to be sort of background character stuff. He always gets sort of sidelined, it seems. Like, even in TF1, he was the first one to die, I believe, wasn't he? I'm pretty sure. And also in TF1, he looked really one of the most plain. You know what he freaking reminds me of, his TF1 build? He looks like a Gundam. He looks like a GM. Like, if you look at him, his visor eye and his helmet, it's just perfectly round, and just his body and everything. He reminds me of a GM. He really does. And that's another thing that bothers me, is that he didn't come with his rifle or his shield. If he would have came with his rifle and his shield, I would have forgiven a lot of stuff. Like, give me Gundamus Prime. He would have looked way better with his shield and his rifle. But that's something I'll give him once I have him in my hands. But, yeah. I don't know. Why does he bug me so much? He should have been the commander class. And Star Convoy should have been my mistake. He should have... Star Convoy, instead of being a Titan class, should have been either a commander or a leader class. And Nexus should have been given commander or Titan class. So that he could have been, true to his scale at least. But, I don't know. It's whatever. I've seen that someone made a point that maybe this is Nexus before he split into his 5 individual components in his original body. And looking at it that way, I can accept him a bit more. That sounds very likely that that's maybe what they aimed for. I mean, there was that people said that Vector Prime might be his younger version, and that's why he looks how he looks, and that's understandable. But it's just for the Prime of combination, the first combiner, you would think they would at least give him a bit of a combiner gimmick to him, right? And so, I don't know, from Friday night, I tossed and turned with the thoughts in my mind of how Nexus would work and everything. And then Saturday, I did nothing but watch and listen to what the community had to say. And then today, earlier this morning, as I was rabbling about Nexus, I said, it sure would be nice if they would just come out and show us the torso of the combiner that he would become and everything else. Just show us what we need to see. And they did. We got a picture of Nexus in his torso combiner mode. This is where my issues for him stem the most. This is my true problem I have with Nexus. Is that the prime of combination, the combiner, the first combiner, doesn't get his own combiner frame or anything like that at all. In fact, his main gimmick seems to be locked behind a paywall of having to buy a larger combiner. So that means you'd have to buy your Silverbolt Superion, your Motormaster Minosaur, or your Onslaught freaking Bruticus. That's $125 for me to be able to get something like that. Just one of them. It's over $100 for a combiner frame. So that means that you get Nexus, but to get the full use out of him, you have to buy a huge combiner. And I have a feeling for a lot of people that's out of your price range. It's out of my price range. I can't just go and buy a combiner like that. I'd have to stop buying all the other things that I have interests in. Like, I don't just collect Transformers. I got other things I like doing. I've got other interests than just Transformers. I can't spend $100 on a combiner just to put Nexus in the middle and look so out of place. His colors barely mash at all with any of the existing combiner frames. He's bright red and blue. Silverbolt, well, Superion is all gray and red. He's the one that looks at least half decent in. Bruticus is all green and... he barely matches with his colors. I don't even know if he'll combine the Devastator. And then Motormaster is black and gray. So it's like... does he really blend in with any of these guys' colors? I just don't get it. And then the pictures that we got today of his torso mode. His head looks like most of his budget went into that. Like, his head looks the most detailed. His combiner head, I may point out. But look at that torso. He looks so skeletal. Like, he looks hollow to me. He looks exactly how I pictured he'd be. Over the last 24 hours, I was thinking and thinking and thinking just about Nexus. How would he work? I was looking closely and everything. Spotted that head behind the nose cone. The nose cone looked like it folded to have the Enigma up front when it folded over the back. And it's exactly how I predicted this morning as I was rabbling about him. I I just picture myself sitting there talking about these things to people who have barely any interest in it. I wonder how I look. Like, I must look silly talking about all this. But I was right. As I was coming up with all these ideas this morning, just sitting there discussing it, and I actually got it right. That the nose cone would fold over, and then the tip would fold to have the Enigma up front. But just what I didn't expect is how hollow he'd look. He looks so disappointing in combiner form. Like, just... You're telling me I'd have to pay $125 for Superion, for just the frame, and Silverbolt, and put Nexus in the middle, and he looks so janky and hollow. He reminds me of combinations I made fiddling with weaponizers, trying to make combiners out of, like, Six Gun and Brunt and Ironworks. He looks like something like that I would have come up with, just putting them together. He looks so hollow and janky that just... I don't know, like, I gotta look at that again. Let's see here. I just gotta look at that picture. Man, like... Yeah, he just looks so weird up front. You've got that clamp keeping him in there. And then you've got the cockpit folded down and the nose cone upward with the Enigma just sitting there up front. You've got his arms folded out to the sides and then up over his shoulders. It barely looks like it goes over his shoulders either. They're like just sitting there. And everything else is just in the back. Like, it's like the brick part of him is just clipped in there and everything else is just... He just looks weird. He looks kind of hollow to me. Like... It's like the back kibble became the front. That's exactly what it is. It looks like his backpack kibble just becomes his front. Also, those screw holes down the bottom there, those look ugly. Like, yeah, sure, Onyx Prime has visible screws, but I don't know. It's just... Man, it looks like all the work went into that face sculpt, and then the rest was just whatever they could come up with. My one issue with him: a Voyager class that costs $57 at least for me. A combiner that costs so much that I'd have to go and buy a separate $125 frame, a body, just to put him in. To get that combiner gimmick out of him. I feel ripped off. I feel ripped off. I just... As someone who can only get the bare minimum when it comes to this type of stuff, that I have to budget. I have to make sure that I can afford other things. That, you know, like my hobbies can't take over everything. But this one guy, this one fella, Nexus Prime, to get the full combiner, I'd have to pay almost $200 to get the entire gimmick. And poorly done, I may add. Like, the colors just don't really blend to me. And then he has no limbs that match him. You have to use the aerial bots or the combaticons or the stunticons. They don't match at all. I don't want to hate on him. I want to like him. All the other primes are beautiful. They're works of art. But this guy, he's got me so confused. I want to stop thinking about him. I want to like him. I want to be excited for him. But now that we see him here and now, I just can't help but feel upset. I don't know. I felt my channel was lacking in Transformers topics, and I just felt I could talk about this today. And as you can hear in my voice, I am not impressed. His robot mode is cool. His jet mode is lackluster. Reminds me of Wing Saber from Energon. That's a cool bonus. But his combiner torso really doesn't cut it for me. And making him so that you have to own a combiner frame. I feel like there's more I could say, but honestly, at this point, I think I've said everything. I don't know. That's all I've got to say for right now on this. Yeah.